You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 207, Getting Over Your Ex Who Struggled with Addiction. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. How is everyone doing? I'm so excited to have a special guest here today with us, Delanie. Delanie recently graduated the Get Over Your Ex program, and I'm so excited for her to share her unique journey with all of you brave hearts listening in today. You're going to love everything that she has to share and say, and it's totally going to help you throughout your heartbreak journey. So thank you so much, Delanie. I appreciate you coming on. I feel like we had such a fun time inside of Get Over Your Ex, which sounds like weird a little bit, but it genuinely is a fun time.
It is.
Right? So why
I
don't you
loved
go
it.
ahead? I would love for you to introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are, where in the world you are, all the things. Tell us about your breakup
Absolutely.
journey, obviously.
Yes, Dor. So happy to be here. So excited. Like I mentioned earlier, it feels like a dream come true to be here. So it doesn't feel real, but it is. Yeah, so like she said, my name's Delanie and I am located currently in North Carolina, in the South. Honestly, the best place to be. So it's really awesome. I just to kind of start off, a little bit about my breakup journey. That started in August of 2021. So almost 2 years coming up. So it's pretty amazing how far I've come and everything that's happened. And really kind of just to start off is, Dora always refers to us as Bravehearts, but really I would say I became a Braveheart in August of 2021. And when I chose to break up with my ex and choose me, right? So that was a really neat part of my story. And when I kind of shared that with Dorothy is, that's kind of when I became a Braveheart, but an official Braveheart, this past April, March or April. So time has flown and the program was amazing. And I just can't say enough about it. So, but just a little bit about my breakup. It's pretty unique, but I'm sure a lot of Bravehearts or future Bravehearts can relate to this. So I actually, was in a relationship with someone that struggled with addiction. And so I feel like for the past couple of years, it has been a huge healing journey. And when I sat down to want to write about my story, 2 years ago, I think it would have been a little different than now. And in the Get Over Your Ex program, there is a part of the program where you rewrite your story. And I thought that was super powerful. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. So, so like I said, so this happened 2 years ago, in August of 2021. And really it goes from more of a victim story to a victor, and that's kind of the way I'm going to tell it today. So I'm really excited about it. So really, dated someone that struggled with addiction, and throughout our whole relationship, I mean, there was a lot of great memories, a lot of great things that happened, but there was also a lot of things that weren't so great, right? And I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, if you are in a relationship with someone that struggles with addiction. And there is this two-part fold where, this person is struggling with something, but they're also a human and they have all these great qualities. And that was my ex. So fast forward a little bit to my breakup and just kind of where the healing started. And that was really when one night after I had kind of left my ex, we were kind of in the breakup stages or breakup stage. I had gone on Spotify, really just trying to look for answers. And I know Doris mentioned this too, where you kind of get on Google, you're kind of searching like, how do I get over your ex? What do I do when I feel this way? Like I was just looking for something. And I had come across a podcast, Carolyn Ivers, and she's an addiction life coach. And I had listened to one of her podcasts one night, and it was on connection versus compatibility, So it was just one of those things that's like, this didn't just happen by chance. This didn't happen by, I guess, yeah, by chance. I was meant to hear this. And I think a lot of you that will be listening to this or that are listening to this can relate to that in so many ways. And, maybe you are wanting to break up with your ex that is struggling with addiction or isn't, and you're just looking for answers, right? So I'd come across this podcast, and after Carolyn had said something in her podcast, she basically said, if you're not truly content with the person that you're with right now, then you shouldn't be with them or you're not compatible. And that really just like strummed a chord deep within inside me. And I knew that I had a lot of healing to do, and that I think right then and there it had less to do about my ex and more to do about me. So I just thought that was so pivotal, and just giving myself more of the credit instead of being like, oh, my ex did this and this happened and I'm hurting from this. And I think that was a really big pivotal moment of saying, okay, yes, all these things happen, but I think the biggest pain that I experienced was abandoning myself and not choosing me, and putting someone else's needs just forward, or putting someone else's needs in front of mine, day in and day out. And just, yeah, you lose yourself, and it is the most painful thing. I can't really describe it, but I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that can relate to that. So that's kind of where my journey started. But fast forward a few months later, I ended up reaching out to her and just pulling the trigger, basically just saying, hey, I need help. And I think that asking for help is never a weakness. It's always something that you're going to grow from and you're going to just flourish from. And so I had reached out to her and I said, hey, I need help. I need to heal. And this is I shared a little bit about my story, dating someone that struggled with addiction. And she was like, well, you're in the right place. So I ended up working with her for 6 months. And it was incredible. I think every coaching call that I was on, I cried, and just had dredged up, past things before even this breakup that were painful, still painful, that I think were, buried deep, hidden down within. And I think that sometimes healing will do that. It's kind of like you're in a sandbox with a bunch of fossils and you have to like brush them off to see this, whatever fossil piece. And that's kind of how I always pictured that, or pictured my healing journey, is kind of brushing off the sand and seeing what's underneath. So it was really neat to kind of start there. And then, coming to a close with, after our 6 months, I just said, I'm just still not over my ex. And she had mentioned Get Over Your Ex program with Dorothy. And she's like, I'm going to send you her information and I want you to look at it. It may be tomorrow that you sign up, it may be next year. So that's really where, it went from working with kind of a lot of the pain and the whole addiction side, but then also just a lot of healing work, and then just making this pivot into, okay, I'm still not over my ex. And she's like, I want you to work with one of the best of the best, which she had worked with you. And so I thought that was really neat. And she always mentioned you, here and there, and just kind of told me her story as well, with working with you and how she got over her ex after she worked with you. So that was really, really neat.
Love Carolyn. Didn't even mean to plug her, and here we are. I love her so much. Yeah. So anyone listening who has a partner who's struggling with addiction, I highly recommend Carolyn. We actually have a podcast together on this podcast, but I think we've recorded and done episodes on her podcast as well. But if you like the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast, but you specifically have either an ex or you're still in the relationship with someone who struggles with addiction, she has a podcast that's very similar to mine, but more specific to addiction. So absolutely recommend that. And yeah, I love it. I'm so glad we found each other, because I think it's one thing to like really dive deep with her in the way that you did around addiction and releasing the partner, because I don't actually know, but I know that she works with people who are still in the relationship and stay, I think.
Yes.
and
Yes.
people
And
who end up deciding to leave. But a
leave.
lot of
Yes.
times you don't know if you're going to leave or stay until you do the
Right.
work with her.
Yes. And
Um,
I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say, yeah, a big part, or I guess a big chunk of work that, we had worked on was like codependent tendencies and really taking a deep dive into that, what that means, and doing a lot of charts and lists and saying, okay, let's map out, all the X's that you have, maybe not just this one, and look at patterns and really being vulnerable with yourself. I think that, if you take away anything today, which you're going to take away a lot, but is truly healing comes from being truly vulnerable with yourself and being just stripping everything away and just, making something new. It's kind of like a garden, right? So like each season you have to, pull the weeds and, till the dirt, and then you can kind of, you're going to, create something better, create something new for that season of life. So that was really awesome to kind of, look at those tendencies, read about those tendencies, just, I mean, like I said, just really strip down everything and just look at everything face value, but be neutral with it, right? So not coming from a very judgmental place. And Dor also really looks at that too. And we'll obviously talk more about what that means. But yeah, I mean, I definitely grew in my professional setting, spiritual setting, and so many of my relationships. I mean, it was life changing in both the programs, especially the Get Over Your Ex program.
So good. Well, and I think too that it's like getting honest with yourself, which is really like
Yes.
nerve-wracking. And it can be really hard when you just wake up one day and notice that you're kind of like living this life that you're not happy with.
Yes.
And to
Kind of like
take
sleepwalking.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like there's part of it that's empowering to be like I put myself here so it means I can get myself out, but there's also a lot of shame I think in just us being humans of like how did I get here? Did I
Yes.
really do this to myself?
Self.
Yeah.
100%.
So
I
it's like
think,
you've got to do it from compassion, you've got to do it from neutral.
mhm.
So I'm glad that we're going to talk more about that today. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
I agree. I agree. I love it.
So good. All right. So tell us a little bit about what was it that you struggled with most when it came to getting over your ex and or building the bigger and better life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know we talked about this a ton. And I was sitting down to think about and reflect really, because that was something that I really reflect on throughout the program as well. What I'm about to tell you guys is acceptance. And I think that a lot of people will struggle with this. For me, it was right when the breakup happened, right? It's kind of like, did this just happen? It's kind of like when something really bad happens in the world or to you, obviously, you're like, this doesn't feel real. A, B, you obviously you cannot wrap your mind around it. It feels, it doesn't feel feasible. Like so that's really, I think, a majority of what I struggled with, because I know that there's multiple stages of grief, and I think that that was the biggest one that I struggled with the most. Um, and I think that, even throughout the Get Over Your Ex program, that was something that I still struggled with almost 2 years later. But it was something that I had worked through because Dora always said, getting over your ex takes a moment. It literally takes a moment and it takes a thought. And so I think that after she had said that in the beginning of the program, that was kind of the trajectory of, right, just pivoting from all this junk that kind of builds up in your brain and your hard drive, and just saying, okay, it can be this simple to get over your ex in a moment through a thought. And so I think that that acceptance portion was almost like eliminated in a way and just reduced to the very simplest idea that it could be. And so um yeah, I think that that was obviously the biggest part of getting over getting over my ex, and then kind of having this okay, what is my future going to look like, since it was so tied to this person. Because there's this two-part fold, right? You have kind of the breakup, and then you have the person, and then you have what your future was attached to, or the thoughts that you had about that person and your future. So it's kind of like peeling an onion. You're peeling back that layer of that person, the kind of the circumstances that occurred, and then also, those future pieces. So I think that what I can tell everyone, and if this is something you're struggling with, is that, loving yourself from a distance, but also, very close by, just feeling, I guess, just, yeah, I would say just loving yourself in every moment, whether it's, kind of the darker moments, and then also, the moments that are really good, because I think at the end of the day that will get you the furthest to acceptance, whether it's, moving on from pain that you caused yourself, and then also pain that someone else caused to you.
Yeah. And the interesting thing I think about acceptance is that acceptance to me is the shortcut to the reality that I want. Because the sooner I can accept what is, the sooner I can actually get to work creating what I want, right?
Yes.
And one of the ways, this sounds really weird, but I kind of want to talk about it here a little bit.
I love it.
Is that one of the ways that I create acceptance in my life? And I'm only realizing this recently. And this sounds crazy, y'all, but you can take it or leave it. If you want to try it, awesome, do it. If not, that's fine as well. But I literally sometimes go to worst case scenario and I get on board with, AKA accept what worst case scenario is, and it releases attachment to so much.
Yes.
And so like a tangible example of this would be like, I'm making really big changes in my personal life and my business life. And something that comes up for me is the scariness around what's worked in my life and my business up until this point has gotten me an amazing life. I would be ignorant to say that I don't have just like the most amazing life ever right now. And so I have this business that I love. I have this personal life that I love. And so to think about trying new things, it makes me really graspy and weird because I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to like lose everything I have. I just like got it all. Right. So I have gone to the place of worst case scenario, I lose it all. I lose the business. I lose my house. I lose my car. I lose my everything that I have, like things and stuff, right?
Yes.
I lose it all. And the crazy part is I still have everything that brings me the joy throughout my day. I still have snuggles with Tinkerbell. I still have yard work. I'm sure I could go to someone's yard and just do yard work for free. I love putting my hands in the soil. Like that's what brings me joy, being out in the sun, right? And I still have connections with amazing human beings. You all know that I'm going to be breakup coaching for the rest of my life. So someday I might deliver a pizza to you and there's going to be a breakup quote on it, right? So like I can still do that, right? And it just like, it kind of blows my mind because then once I get on board with like, oh my God, I could lose it all, then I get to take the big risks. That's when I get to go after like the bigger things that feel more aligned to me, that my mind is actually really scared of doing because it feels so attached. But that's what I'm saying is like getting to acceptance is the shortcut. The sooner I got to acceptance around worst case scenario, then I'm able to like get to work to actually creating what I want. And I'm going to be in a better place and I'm going to get there way faster.
Yes. I love that. I have 3 things, if that's okay, if I can, add on to that. So first, I think, this was on our last call together, on our graduation call, which is, feels like forever ago, but it was only a few weeks ago. And it was something that you said after, I had shared just kind of my takeaways from the program and whatnot. And this was definitely a takeaway for me. And we can talk about more later, but is, kind of what you were just saying about, how can I get there the quickest, and kind of like with the whole acceptance portion. Because then it's kind of like, I can do what I love and keep going with it. And that's really trusting yourself. And I think for me, it's like, it was always there, but it's the allowing part of you, allowing yourself to proceed. And I think for a long time, I had the gates closed, but I was literally at the gates. And that's like the best way I can describe it. And that's kind of what you said on the our last call, is like Delanie, like it's always been there. It's that trust piece that you took, those next steps towards. And I just love that. And that's something that I think about every day. And then just kind of to your point too, is, I also have a sticky note on this, is that, whether it's, a scary decision or an easy decision, you're deciding, you're committing, you're practicing, and then you're evaluating after. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in, oh my gosh, is this the right decision? Like, is something going to happen if I do this? And then your brain just gets dramatic, and then it creates all these reasons why you shouldn't do it. And that was another thing that I took away from this program, and that you said a lot, is that, there's no good, right, or good, bad, right, or wrong. There's only these neutral decisions that you can make. And and you can experiment. That was another thing that I took away from this program. And that really went with my human design, which is also, I think, another podcast for another time. But it was just really neat to kind of like get back realigned to my human design, what this season of life is calling me to do, and to experiment, and, just plug and play, and have fun with it. I think that at the end of the day is what matters. So.
Oh my God, I could cry. Because honestly, though, that was the major shift that I saw in you from beginning to end, was self-trust.
Mm-hmm.
You had all the answers, and I could tell you had all the answers, but there were so many points in the beginning that you would come to me almost like asking permission.
Yes.
Or
wow.
or
Just gave me chills.
right? Like double checking your work almost.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I could just tell you already knew who you were. You already knew, and you're such a playful, fun, energetic, light being. And I could tell that you just were getting stuck. Like I don't know, it felt like you were meant to shine, like, right? You were meant
like
to shine like this big, and you were meant to go. But like you said, you were standing at the gate with this like dim light, and then being like, but Dort, should I go?
Yeah.
Like, should I unlock the lock this way, or should I, right? Like, but once, by the end, it was like this, like self-trust, this groundedness in yourself, the security in yourself. And you're like, I'm doing this, this, and this, and that's what's right for me. And it doesn't matter what other people are doing.
Yes, I love that. It was almost like I was minimizing myself, and kind of going back to, breakup story and all of that. I think it becomes more of a victor, story when you say, okay, yes, all these things happen, but all the cards are on my table, right? I gave way too much credit to my ex. And I think a lot of the women and man that was in our program can say the same thing at the beginning. It's really cool to see the shift of them to you. And so yeah, I just love that. I just love seeing the shift, and just, yeah, it's awesome.
I'm so happy for you. You just like stepped into your own. Okay, so we just talked about a lot of these, but what were kind of the big turning points for you in the program? Were they those, or is there anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, I have a few, and to kind of go off of what we were just talking about with acceptance and just kind of self-trust is, I'll start off with this one, is we had a self-care week. Love that. I love Dora does some really awesome things in her program. She does different things, different weeks of the program. So it's really something you guys want to get plugged into. So self-care week, it's really all about, it's more than just self-care. So that she breaks it down into 4 different parts. So you have the care, responsibility, respect, and then knowledge. And I think, working with Carolyn, it was amazing. And I feel like, we had touched on that, but I felt like they were just beautiful reminders. Just taking a deep dive into what each of those look like and how you can apply that to your life. So, one that I really loved, that I think that I needed the most at that point in time, was respect. And a lot of people might think, oh, well, that's just cliche. Like, it's just respecting yourself. Well, it's a little more than that. It's also and I think it related especially to my story and to my relationship, is that you're allowing that person to be them, and you're allowing yourself to be authentically you. And if it works, then great. And if it doesn't, then thanks for playing. Loved it. And we're going to go find someone that is a better fit. And so I think that after taking a deep dive into that, it was like so much freedom in that. And I think that if there is one word of this program, it is freedom. It is freedom of literally like I can almost think like I felt like I was wrapped in like very heavy weeds or chains, if you will. And I just think this program just, it's like taking pliers and just snipping it all off. And it's indescribable. And so I think that is one that I definitely related to the most and what I have worked on these past 3 months. So
You're finally free. It is a good feeling. Free. I think free is like the number one feeling that people experience.
yes.
I'm glad you brought up the self-love, self-care stuff. And I think the respect part is just so interesting because we talk about respecting others. I feel like in society a lot of like, make sure you respect your elders, make sure you respect your authority figures, respect this person, respect that person.
Exactly.
And then I think when, especially I think about situations like yours, where you're in this relationship with someone who struggles with addiction. I also see it with people who were in relationships with narcissists or people who were gaslighting or people who were abusive in some way, shape, or form. And they think that by staying in the relationship, they lost all their self-respect. And they're like, I didn't respect myself enough to leave.
Exactly.
And it hurts my heart to hear that from people
Yes.
because
Mhm.
there's like this hot topic word of like self-abandonment going around.
Yes.
But I just
Yes.
want you to think about how it feels when you're telling yourself, I disrespected myself. I
Exactly.
self-abandoned. Like it
Yes.
feels so disempowering,
Mhm.
shameful,
Yes.
defeated,
Mhm.
discouraged. And you start like
Yes.
beating up on yourself, like the negative
Yes. The
self-talk,
shoulda,
all of that.
wouldas.
Yeah.
Yes. I think
Right.
it's, just to your point, I think looking back on it, because I was there, and I think now I'm in a place where it's like loving on that Delanie and saying, you know, there was a lack of knowledge. And I think that's with anything, right? I only knew as much as I knew, and I carried myself in the best way possible. And now I'm in such a different spot, and it's like this like proud mom of myself kind of thing, if you want to get literal. And it's really cool to get to a place of, okay, yeah, that happened. And, you know, yeah, but it's what, like I said, it's how much you knew at that point in time. And it gives yourself grace. It gives you that room to say, yeah, and I think there is a shift there once you say, I knew as much as I knew, so that's how it happened. And so then it kind of pivots into, okay, it is okay that that happened, and I am going to learn and I am going to grow from that. And so there's more of a positive connotation there.
Yes,
Mhm.
right. And here's
Yeah.
the thing that I want to say for those of you who are in it right now and might be struggling with this. I I want you to just try on the idea that you're learning right now because some of you might
Yes.
be in that situation. You're like, I do know better and I'm still here. What the fuck am I doing? Right. And for those of you who are in that, please like be kind to yourself because
Yes.
you're not going to take the action that is of your highest good from a place of being mean to yourself. Like it feels like
Exactly.
you might, but I promise you it comes from like self-love, self-compassion. It comes from this place of I'm learning how to leave. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm
Hmm.
showing up each and every day. I'm going to figure this out.
Yes. And
Right?
intentionality for
Yes.
sure.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's being kind to yourself in it because you might even have a lot of people around you yelling at you, being like, what are you
Yes.
doing? You
What?
deserve better. How are you? Like, you've got
Yes.
to allow yourself to be your own best friend because even as much as your friends or your family are like wanting to be there and not, um, support some sort of
Yes.
behavior,
Yes.
they mean well, right? But you've got to
There.
be like, I am learning. I'm getting
Yes.
there. I'm
Yes.
one step in front of the other, right? We're getting there and be kind to yourself. I really just can't emphasize that enough.
No, not at all. And I was going to add this too. You had mentioned, it is awesome to have a community around you. I will say I am very lucky. I have a great family and support system. but I will mention this, and this isn't for everyone, but this is my stories that my first program that I went through with Carolyn, I actually did not tell my family until I was in the last month of my coaching experience. And it wasn't because I was trying to be secretive or anything like that, but it is something to keep in mind that it was something that I wanted to have for my own. And I really wanted to just be all in it and to not have any familial just opinions or anything kind of get inside that barrier. And I think it can be really beneficial. And I know it was beneficial to me. And it was honestly the most special thing sharing with my family the last month. Hey, I just finished a 6-month coaching program with an addiction life coach. And like, it was amazing. It was a really neat way to end that. And I just couldn't have asked for a better way to kind of, get out of kind of that coaching program. So just something to think about, but I totally agree, Dor.
I love that. I never even thought about not telling people what I'm doing in coaching.
Yeah, it's
That's,
like
I mean, that's
surprise.
that makes sense though, because I remember
Yes.
like not the first time I signed up for coaching, but the first time that I signed up for life coach training, I had so many people who had thoughts and opinions, and none of them were in the direction that I was headed in. And so it was interesting.
Exactly.
Okay. So what would you tell the version of you who was in the thick of it? If you could go back, if you could rewind to that Delanie, what would you tell her? Because I'm just sitting here thinking that there's someone on the other end of this podcast who is that version of you. Like, what would you
Yeah.
tell him or her?
Yes. Yes. So many good things. Well, I'm going to say this one thing because I know kind of leaving the Get Over Your Ex program, this was something we had talked about and it's kind of humorous now, but is that, you can still date and get over your ex. And I think that it's really awesome to notice that, you know, you can't have two things coexist. And I think for a long time, my brain was like, because I have a very logical side of me as well. And it's like, okay, I got to do this first, this first. So I love lists, all that kind of thing. And I think a lot of you can relate to that. And so I think it was this big concept. My brain was being super dramatic. And I remember being on some, coaching calls with Dor and just talking about this. And it was almost kind of humorous because she's like, I mean, what are you doing today? And I was on some dating apps and I was telling her, oh, I don't really like them, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me fast forward for you folks. I did meet someone on a dating app and we have been seeing each other for, it'll be almost a month here coming up. And I'm actually wearing his shirt as we talk on this podcast. And let me just say, like, it is so much fun falling for someone post a breakup that you thought that like your heart could not do that for. And so I just think it's really neat. There's just so many things, so many awesome things about him. I could go on and on, but that's not why we're here today. But I will just say, like, I am a spiritual person, and I will say, like, my faith has got me through that breakup as well. And he's a spiritual person as well, and loves the Lord and all that good stuff. And it's really awesome because my ex wasn't really spiritual in that sense. And so something that I prayed about and all this stuff. So not to get into too much detail there, but I will say, like, it does happen. And I think that was a big thing for me. Like, oh, it's never going to happen again. I'm never going to fall for someone again. I'm never going to have those feelings. Like, it does. It does. And it's so neat to like hear myself saying that because I actually haven't really said that to him yet, kind of, sort of, but so it's just neat. It's just really cool. And I think another thing that I'll say is that, a huge realization in this whole healing journey is that this happens for you and not to you. Um, this, like, I say this to myself every day. I think about this every day, is that I would not have it any other way because I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I wouldn't like have all the tools. I wouldn't have met Dor. I wouldn't have worked with Carolyn. I just like it is so life-changing to invest in yourself, and I cannot put a dollar sign on this program. Like it's truly life-changing and you will not regret it. You learn so much from yourself. You learn so much from the Get Over Your Ex community. I mean, there are so many beautiful people in this community. I mean, we even started, Dora, I don't know if you know this, we started a group chat on um not group me, but it's one of those group chats. So it's just really awesome. And we're trying to work out some weekly calls so that way we can check in with each other, or bi-weekly, and just WhatsApp. There we go. So it's really cool just to kind of see, okay, what are we doing outside the program? Like, how are we living our bigger and better life? Because is life moves quickly, as you guys know. So it's just really cool. It's just really neat. So I think that those are some big takeaways. And
You did not tell me this before we hopped on this call. And so my jaw, when she's saying that she's met someone, is on the floor. I'm so excited for you. Falling in love is the most fun, is it not? I
it
love
is,
love.
it
Literally,
is,
that feeling is like the best.
it
So
is.
obsessed with it. And the beautiful part about where you're at is you're in this place where you actually get to enjoy it because
Yes.
you are healed. And I think
Yes.
and I don't want to use the word healed in that way, but I'm just like, you are to this place where you've learned how to reduce desire, you've learned how to
Yes.
reduce attachment, and now you get to
Yes.
date from a very unattached place. And
Yes.
falling in love from that place feels good. And
Yes.
I am obsessed. I love it.
I
So
love
I'm
it. Yeah.
excited for you.
Oh, thanks, Dor. I will say, and I think someone had posted on the community about this, and this isn't like a bad thing or anything, but this, I think what I'm about to say is gonna kind of put things in perspective and kind of, shed light on when you are detached, this is how you'll feel towards yourself. Is like, it's so awesome hanging out with him and like getting to know him and doing all the fun things, but there are moments when I'm like not sad. It's a hard word to put your finger on, but you're like, I've dated myself for the past 2 years. I've really been intentional about that. And it's almost like, like, what if tomorrow we start dating, or like we are exclusive, or we're boyfriend and girlfriend? Like, those are thoughts that I've thought recently. And it's like a good thing because you're just so in love with yourself and like where you're at. And it's like, yes, this human's amazing, and blah blah blah, but at the same time you're just so into you and you love you. And so that, I will say that, and it's a really neat feeling, that thought to have, because I've never had that before. And so
Isn't
I
it
just thought,
weird?
yeah,
It's like this
share that.
situation where you're like, I'm actually just totally obsessed and content with like how everything's going for me right
Yes.
now. So
Yes.
if you do want to hang out with me, the bar is kind of high.
Yes, exactly.
So
Exactly.
good.
So I
I'm
just thought
obsessed.
I'd add that. Yes, I am
Too
too.
good.
Me
Amazing.
too.
Thank you.
Of
Is there
course.
anything else that you would like to share with the Brave Hearts listening in?
Yes, I have 15 things on my list at the moment, but I don't know if we can get through all of them. But I think just a few that I'll share is that life will surprise you. Just kind of going off of what I just shared with you guys, is life will truly surprise you. I will always say, I'm always a firm believer in, and we talked about this in the Get Over Your Ex program, is cling to something bigger than you, right? If you are spiritual, if you do believe in God, then please cling to that. If you aren't, find something in nature, whether it's crystals, what have you, whatever you feel aligned with, do that, because it is a game changer, and it's all part of the experience. I'll also say that you're not alone. I mean, there are people in the program that, on the coaching calls will come and say, I can relate. Oh my goodness, I felt like this last week. It's really awesome to know that you're not alone, because I think our brains always go to that place and say, yeah, you're the only one. There's no one out there that's struggling with this. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. So I will say that always find small ways to celebrate you and what you've accomplished. I think that that's so important, especially when you're going through something like a heartbreak, because they are trying times. There were moments when I didn't think that I'd get through it. And I think Dora can relate to that. I think any of you listening to this podcast can relate to that if you're in the thick of it. But it's really awesome to do stuff like that for yourself, whether it's get a massage, go get your nails done. Even guys listening, I know some of you guys like getting pedicures too. So just treat yourself and just celebrate yourself and surround yourself with people that are going to bring out the best in you. I would say, something that Dor said in the Get Over Your Ex program that I just like, I have on a sticky note, I'm like, I love this, is that you don't have to feel miserable or hold on to suffering to validate the loss or pain. And I think that a lot of you can relate to what I just said, because I think for me, for a long time, I did this with any relationship that I was in, whether it was a friendship or relationship. I would hold on to that pain because I'm like, well, if as long as I hold on to it, then it happened, and it's gonna, validate that, and it's gonna, make people realize that it happened. No, it still happened regardless, if you hold on to or not. And the only person you're gonna be hurting is yourself if you hold on to that pain. So start letting that go. Start peeling the onion back, and I promise you it'll get better.
That's a good one because
Yeah,
you get to realize that. Well, I just think it's so weird because I think our brain accidentally does that. It's like, if I let go of the pain, then it means it never happened. And I
exactly.
came to like that huge realization through the miscarriage of like,
Mm,
I realized I kept holding on to the pain, and like, there's obviously grief and loss, just like anything,
yeah,
and just like heartbreak. But I kept holding on to this like extra layer of it because I thought if I don't feel sad, then it never really happened, or
exactly.
like people are going to
Exactly.
forget that it happened, and
Yes.
then it makes it okay that it happened, which is just not the
Yes.
case. And I think when we're coming out of breakups where something quote unquote wrong happened, or where they
Yes.
did something where you would love the breakup police to pull up and write them a
Yes.
ticket for, right? It's hard to like let that pain go because you're worried that people are going to forget how terrible and shitty that person is.
Exactly.
Um,
It's
and yeah, so it's
yeah,
very fascinating. I'm glad you brought that up.
yes, absolutely. It's kind of like, you know, this huge monumental thing happened. You go outside and life is still happening. You're like, why can't these people just stop around me and just realize what pain I'm in, even if they're strangers passing on the street? I know that I had many of those moments. And yeah, so that's totally right. I have two more, and then I think I'll cap it on there. But I will say, so two things that I came across, I mean, even in the last couple of weeks and the last month, is that saying goodbye to your past is your victory. And just always remember that is like, you know, things will always get better, and there's so much ahead. And that's why Dor, her biggest thing is, getting over your ex, but also creating a bigger and better life. And like that is just nothing but the truth. Also is, don't be afraid to start over again, because this time you won't be starting from scratch. You'll be starting from experience. And I love that, because I think a lot of times, I mean, even when I started to, think about, okay, I need help and how am I going to do this, when I was scared to death, kind of signing up for my first coaching program. I had never worked with a coach before, hadn't even done therapy, but I'm just a huge advocate now because you know, I am starting from experience after working with a coach for that long, and also being in this Get Over Your Ex program. So I haven't been in just one coaching program, but two, and I know this won't be the last. So please, please, please sign up for the Get Over Your Ex program if you're struggling at the moment, or even if you're like me, where you were in a relationship and 2 years later you decide, this, I really want this, because Dora always said it's not about time, it's what you do in that time. So please invest in that.
So good. Honestly, when you were talking, so I recently had a moment. I have these like moments in life, and I just call them moments of like, just you don't feel a part of your body anymore. You're like, I feel like I'm having an out of body
Yes, out of
experience.
body experience.
Yeah. And it was when I went to California recently for a work retreat thing that I was doing.
Mhm.
And I've always had problems getting to and from California. It's not like my favorite place to travel to. And this time I was convinced, though, that I was like, this is going to be the best California experience I've ever had. And I made an intention that it was going to be amazing and smooth, and actually even better than smooth. Like big, amazing things were going to happen for me. It was awesome. I manifested so many cool things. It was really neat,
Awesome.
super cool.
Love it.
But my moment that happened it was 6 a.m. I was grabbing a coffee at this cute little local coffee shop, and I had rented, this is extravagant for me right now as we're recording. I don't know if it will be for me in the future, but I rented a Range Rover, which was like my quote unquote dream car, my millionaire mama car, right? Like that's not something I have in my current reality, but I am open to it, you know, being something that will be in my current reality. So long story short, I rented this car so that I could do a photo shoot with it and like really like have it on my vision board, but it's like me in the car, not some like Pinterest
I love
thing.
that. Yes, I
Right.
love that.
So
Yeah.
it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I finally got used to driving the Range Rover because on my way there, I was terrified the whole time because it's so much bigger than my Volkswagen Jetta. So on the way back, I felt like very confident in my ability to drive it. And I have my cute little iced coffee and I'm listening to like my favorite music, which is like EDM, you know, music.
Like
and
house music. Yeah, I love it.
yeah. And I'm driving in the Range Rover. I'm on the interstate. There's no traffic. I have my iced coffee and I was just having this like moment of like, I'm alive. Like I'm literally a human and I'm alive. And
I love it.
right. And it felt so good because coming out of last year and the beginning of this year, it was so hard for me. And to like have the moment of like, I'm alive and I'm glad that I'm alive and I'm glad I'm here feels so good. And that is the moment that I want all of my brave hearts to have, because I know that when you're in that, like the thick of that heartbreak, it's so hard to see a future that you're sitting in, that you're actively saying, I'm so glad I'm alive for this moment.
Yes, absolutely. I love that door.
It's that
You're
full
gonna
body
get me teary eyed.
experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that full body experience of like knowing
Yes.
that you're in that moment for a reason and you're here because you are meant to be. And
Yes.
so I want that for all of you, and just know that that moment is coming. And even if it feels really far away, please stick with it. You are meant to be here. And
Yes.
it's so close. I can feel it. It's so close.
Yes. So close. I love that. I love moments.
Right?
I will say I had a brief one of those recently. So the guy that I'm talking to at the moment, he on the side plays the drums. So he plays in a band, which is super attractive to me. And he's so talented. He's been playing over a decade. And I had my moment when I actually went to go see him play a couple weekends ago. And I'm at this small little family bar in the area that I live in. I'm 2 seats back from the stage. I went by myself, kid you not, and I loved it because it was like a date by myself, but it was also like I'm watching this really attractive man play his drums, and it was just so awesome because I grew up playing the violin and piano, and it was just it was an experience, and I just feel like, and I think a lot of listeners can relate to this, is like it's a standstill. You just, after you break up with someone, you don't want to do anything. You just you want the whole world to stop. And I just think it was this awesome experience because like the lead singer, he was on The Voice, and he has like a strong connection with Kelly Clarkson, and he was just all about experience. He had everyone stand up, wave their phones and their flashlight, and it was just so neat. He was like, I don't want anybody to just sit here and just watch us. I want you to be a part of this experience, and I want you to, feel what we're feeling. And it was just so awesome. He was like, if you've had a bad week or if you're going through something, like I want you to be here and be in this moment. And I just love that. So I had to share that.
So good. It's like those moments that are just so amazing, though. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you so much, Delanie. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience with everyone. I know it's going to be so helpful for so many people. I love you to pieces.
Yes, love
And
you,
I'm
Dor.
just so grateful to be a part of your journey. And we all love you so much.
Yes, likewise, Dor.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.